Morning. Welcome to the Minnesota Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. If you have not met me yet, I am Reverend Diana McLean, and I serve this fellowship as its minister. And I'm joined leading our service this morning by Greg Kirkwood, our worship associate. You are welcome here, however old or young you are, wherever you were born and grew up, whoever your ancestors were, and in whatever religious tradition you were raised. You are welcome here, whatever your gender and whoever you love. You are welcome with whatever abilities and limitations you have. We invite you always to bring your whole self here. Whether this is your first time here or you have been with us for many years, your presence is always a gift to us. We're glad you're here. We hope you will be glad you came and that you in turn will welcome others. After the service, everyone is invited to share refreshments and conversation in the social hall downstairs, and we always look forward to this chance to make new friends and renew old acquaintances. We have several announcements this morning. First, the flowers this morning are in memory of Daryl and Kathy Eager's son, David Winslow Eager II, whose birthday was February 14th. A reminder that next Sunday is our service and potluck following the service celebrating the 60th birthday of this fellowship, and I hope you'll all join us. I have an announcement from Nan Corliss, who says, I'm signing up people for the film Trans in Trumpland that Sarge is showing on Saturday, February 28th, so that we have an idea of childcare needs and food needs. Nan says, I will have a sign-up sheet either upstairs outside the sanctuary or downstairs after the service. And we hope to see you all there, whether or not you need to let Nan know about childcare. And last but not least, in addition to that Sarge event, which is also in partnership with our music committee, we always have lots of activities happening here at MVUUF, so please check the website, the Friday emails, and the Unison monthly newsletter for details on all that's going on.
Our chalice lighting words are by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage. Welcome to this sacred space. Welcome to worship. Welcome to you who are joyful and excited this sunny, mild day. Welcome to you who are weary and I need some comfort, some rest. Welcome to you who are seeking deeper meaning and purpose in the infinite expanse of this gift of life. Today, we come with full hearts and open spirits to open to the possibility that what we receive here will inspire us to mend up our tender parts, nourish our waning lights, and give us enough wisdom and energy to embody resilience with every breath. Let us worship together. Lock Lewis has struck again. Our opening words today is from the Reverend Erica Hewitt, inspired by Elizabeth Wynn, Our Works for Social Justice, in a Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide. To be a Unitarian Universalist. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work. The work of telling the truth about oppression. The work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity. The work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine within each other, no matter what. The work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means that we are not alone in this work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on this journey to grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free. Because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Let's go into the hymn, number 1012, When I Am Frightened.
Strong
arrive here today, as we do every Sunday, with both joys and sorrows in our hearts. And one of the many promises that we make to each other here in this beloved community is that we will both help each other celebrate the joys in life and also help each other bear the sorrows. If you have a brief personal joy or sorrow to share, we invite you to come forward and drop a stone into the water and share at the microphone, which will be brought up by one of our ushers. You may also choose to drop a stone in silence if you prefer. And if you are not willing or able to come forward, you may raise your hand and an usher will bring the microphone to you and I will drop a stone in on your behalf. For those who are online, please type your joy or sorrow into the chat or the words "silent stone," and that will be shared aloud in the room and a stone will be added for you.
Tom Ellinger. This is something which I find very discomforting and painful. This week, I was going to be driving somebody to work, an at-risk person. However, the windows on my car are not mirrored over. They're clear. So he said, "No, can't go with you. I don't feel safe." Still ongoing. It's very much, there are people hidden in their houses still. Let's not forget that.
Monday how's the house? How's it come? Hers.
Translation, my child Monday got to join mommy and daddy to assist our vulnerable neighbors Wednesday night, and then we all had ice cream.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that if anyone was trying to get me yesterday, our granddaughter Megan was in the finals on dance, believe it or not, at Target Center, and their team came in second, which was very nice.
Hi, I'm Marcy Lovejoy, and for the first Saturday of the month, I did go to our group, which now our acronym is LIFT. I think Learning in, Friendship and Trust, Fellowship and Trust, yeah. So I just wanted to share that I thoroughly enjoyed, we had the topic, the invention of whiteness, and I hadn't realized that that term was not really being used until like into the 1700s. We have a lot of good topics at that on the first Saturday of the month, and we have a nice artist coming, as well as I think it's a relative of him that's going to provide an ethnic meal for $10, and yeah, it should just be very interesting, you know, trying different foods and trying out different subjects and getting together with each other. So I hope we see more of you. We have been having like 20 to 40 people come. So yeah, hope you come for the same enjoyment I had.
Matthew Schneider, this is a joy. I am actually very pleased to see our diplomatic arm of our government starting to hire again and starting to support our people globally, and hopefully that will strengthen diplomatic ties. Thank you.
Do we have anybody online, Debbie? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, we will keep in mind that in addition to those joys and sorrows spoken aloud, there are always some that we're either not ready yet to share or that we may never be ready to share in a large group such as this. And so we hold those joys and sorrows in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Please join me in the musical response. Generosity is one of the spiritual qualities that we as Unitarian Universalists aspire to, and also one of the tangible practices that we nurture in this fellowship. With our offering in each Sunday service, we give of our financial resources to support the work of this congregation. We know, of course, that giving financially is only one of the ways we support that work. We also do it with our time and with our talents. All of those are necessary for the vital work that we do here, both for each other within the fellowship and for the wider community. We also donate half of our collection every Sunday to support one of our community partners, organizations who are in alignment with our values. For the month of February, our sharing partner is Northside Achievement Zone, which partners with scholars at all stages of life to ensure that they realize their potential by providing academic assistance, resources, and opportunities for families to support their success in school, work, and life. You can give in person as baskets are brought around, or you can give online using the QR code on the back of the printed order of service or the donate online link on our website. Please give as generously as you are able.
awesome rendition by Lark. I almost forgot when she ended. This morning, we have two readings. The first is Prayer for Resilience Through Connections by Reverend Michelle Collins. Source of love, spirit of independence. We give thanks for the well that holds us, the hands that have steadied us, the voices that remind us we are not alone, the presence of those who have leaned on us, just as we leaned on them. Resilience is not a solitary triumph. It is woven through community, shared meals, gentle questions, laughter that breaks through grief. Courage borrowed from one another when our own runs thin. In this moment, let us remember that we are stronger together than apart. May we continue to offer and receive care, trusting that our connections sustain us, even when we cannot behold the whole picture. Blessed be the bounds that hold and that keep holding. Our second reading is by Amy Van Horsdale. This morning, I have been pondering a nearly forgotten lesson that I learned in high school music. Sometimes, in band or choir, music requires players and singers to hold a note longer than it actually can hold a note. In those cases, we were taught to mindfully stagger when we took a breath so the sound appeared uninterrupted. Everyone got to breathe, and the music stayed strong and vibrant. So, take a breath. The rest of the chorus will sing. The rest of the band will play. Rejoin so others can breathe. Together, we can sustain a very long, beautiful song for a very long time. You don't have to do it all, but you must add your voice to the song.
So of course, it's not just songs that we can sustain through taking turns breathing and singing, but resistance. Here in the Twin Cities Metro, we are all aware that we have been having extraordinarily difficult times for the last few months, and of course, some among us have been having extraordinary difficult times for longer than that. As Tom mentioned during Joys and Sorrows, it is not over yet. I'll add a brief story of my own about that, which is, some of you know, my spouse is also a UU minister, and she works at Unity Unitarian in St. Paul. Yesterday, she was at Unity for a workshop she was leading, and they are not far from a co-op called Mississippi Market, and that co-op has been holding classes for immigrants to learn how to grow food in this climate, which is unfamiliar to many of them when they arrive in Minnesota. But the room that they do that in has clear windows, like Tom's car. And so it was not feeling like a safe space for that class to happen this weekend, yesterday. And so they asked Unity if a room could be found at the church for the class, and a room was found. I believe it was a basement room that felt safe for everybody. But Shay, who was not in that class, she was in a different one, she and her coworkers noticed that ICE circled their building continuously during that class. So in case anybody's falling for the mainstream media story about it being over, it's clearly not. But what is also true, and what has been noticed by people watching us from afar, not just around the country, but around the world, is that we, Minnesotans, as a community, have turned toward each other, have cared for each other, and have demonstrated this morning's theme of collective resilience. This is another one of those themes that I picked months ago, having no idea the context in which I would be preaching it when it came to that date. Now, I want to be clear that resilience does not mean there has been no pain or that we are not still struggling, but it does mean that we are finding a way forward together. So even while we are not yet at all sure that we can trust the supposed end of Operation Metro Surge, we are beginning to talk about recovery. We heard that from Governor Walz this week, among others, about the repair and healing that will need to happen once we are no longer under federal occupation. And thinking about that timeline of when that healing happens, I'm reminded of some training I received early in the pandemic lockdown about collective trauma, which of course is exactly what we've been experiencing. And a wise colleague said that you cannot both experience and process a trauma at the same time. So we are still in the trauma here in the Twin Cities and in many places around the nation. One might argue the entire nation. And so we can't really process it yet and do that healing work, but we're starting to look towards the day when we can. But the good news is that even before we reach that stage where we can really focus on recovery and processing, we are already being nourished by people both within and beyond our metro area. And I'm aware that when I say we, that doesn't apply equally to all of us or to us compared to some of the communities that are more closely impacted. One of the acts of caring that has brought me some nourishment this week and the rest of the staff, and I know some of you, is visible in the hallway on the way to the staff offices. How many of you have gone and looked at the wall of cards and letters that we've been receiving from other Unitarian Universalists around the country? Yeah, I encourage you all to look if you haven't yet. We deliberately hung them in a way that we think they're accessible for you to read them, and I invite you to take some time to do that. I want to share with you the story behind those cards. They didn't just appear by coincidence. My friend, Reverend Linda Susan Ulrich, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister currently living in Connecticut, but who actually did their internship at Unity in St. Paul. Linda Susan wanted to do something, even from Connecticut, to support Unitarian Universalists in the Twin Cities during Operation Metro Surge. And so they asked in an online group for UU ministers if it would be helpful for us to receive notes from other congregations. And many of us said, yes, absolutely, please, we would love that. And so Linda Susan created a spreadsheet that had all of the Twin Cities area congregations listed with our mailing addresses and the name of the minister at each one if it's served by a minister. And other congregations were able to sign up to choose one or more congregations. I know there's at least one church that sent cards to all of the Twin Cities congregations. And they were able to sign up and send us notes and cards. Now, Reverend Ulrich has since then added additional tabs to the spreadsheet for congregations in other places that may be in need of some love right now. But the idea behind it was recognizing that what we're going through in the Twin Cities is of a magnitude that we had not yet seen elsewhere in the country. So these cards and notes that we have been receiving are, to me, a beautiful, tangible expression of our theology of interdependence and love. They are a tangible manifestation of the web that holds us, as one of our readings earlier spoke about. As of when I was writing this on Thursday, we have received love notes from 10 locations. And I just want to read those to you so you can get a sense of where that web of love is existing for us right now. First Unitarian Church of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That's the one that sent them to all the Twin Cities, that I believe sent them to all the Twin Cities congregations. First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, Ohio. First Parish of Arlington, Massachusetts. One person from York, Pennsylvania. I don't know the name of that person's congregation, and that person included in her card a $100 check, which she said she wanted us to use to help people who have been harassed or detained by ICE. So that money has gone into the minister's discretionary fund, but I am bearing in mind that that is the purpose for which it is intended. A congregation in Exeter, New Hampshire. The UU Church of Brunswick, Maine. The Olympia Brown UU Church in Racine, Wisconsin. Westside UU in Seattle, Washington. The UU Society of Amherst, Massachusetts. And First Unitarian Universalist of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where my mother used to be a member, and I received a personal note from a UU immigration attorney in Ann Arbor who worked on immigrant support there with my mother years ago. And as you may have seen if you read the Friday email, we also received an email with a video of the song I Am Sending You Light, sung by the Unitarian Universalists of San Mateo, which is where my predecessor, Reverend Laura Thompson, now serves. If you have not yet looked at the Friday email and clicked on that video and watched it, I strongly encourage you to do so. It is such a gift, and you will catch glimpses of Reverend Laura in the video. She's not in the choir, but she is present in the video. Back when Seth Anderson Matz led our Sunday service on January 25th, which I don't know about you, but that feels very long ago to me, even though I think it's like 3 weeks, feels like months. When he led our service that day, he talked to you a little bit about a 2-day convening of clergy and faith leaders from all over the country here in the Twin Cities. Faith leaders from many traditions. That took place that previous Thursday and Friday, January 22nd and 23rd. While we have been sort of cautious about having really specific numbers attached to those events for safety reasons, I believe the count that I most recently saw was that over 1,200 clergy came from around the country, and over 150 of those were Unitarian Universalist ministers. The call that went out from local interfaith organizing groups to groups around the country talked about this as being our Selma. And much like happened in Selma, our small denomination sent a fairly large percentage of our ministers. I say sent, it's not like the UUA sent the ministers. Congregations sent their ministers to be here with us. And from start to finish, those 2 days were filled with activism, and they were a source of collective resilience. The purpose of calling for clergy to come from other places was twofold. First and most obvious, to support those of us here on the front lines of federal occupation and to witness and tell the truth about what is happening here. And second, but no less important, to teach those other clergy from other places what organizers and other leaders in the Twin Cities have learned from decades of caring for our community in difficult times, though none exactly like this one. Our history here in the Twin Cities and what has arisen from it, those are part of what enabled us to respond so quickly and clearly to the occupation we have been experiencing, and to have practices and resources for our shared resilience. And we, the faith leaders of the Twin Cities, are very aware that we have been a test case. And so we knew that this wasn't only going to happen here, and we wanted people to be ready for when it comes to them. The first day of the convening was Thursday, and we gathered at Westminster Presbyterian because we needed a giant sanctuary for a morning of inspiration and learning. And I wish I could give you all the full experience of what we had that morning, but just to give you a little sampling, we had powerful speakers, including the Minneapolis Poet Laureate, Junata Petrus, Indigenous leader Jim Bear Jones, and Lena Gardner, who is one of the co-founders and the current executive director of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, and Lena lives in Minneapolis, and many other powerful speakers from across a spectrum of faiths. We were also led in song several times between speakers, and later, some of us will be teaching all of you one of those songs. In that sanctuary, on that Thursday morning, we were challenged and nourished at the same time. We were held in a container of words and music and sacred presence that fueled us for the work that we knew was ahead of us. One of the speakers, civil rights attorney and community organizer Liz Loeb, said something that has stuck with me. She said, "This level of care, connection, and interdependence is available all the time." We can care for each other like this all the time, not only when we're under threat. And many of us do. I don't want to overlook that, but I think that's an important message for us to hold on to. After that time together in the morning and a lunch break, we split into groups for different activities, including training for those of us who would be at the airport action the next day. I'm not quite sure what all of the trainings were that the out-of-town clergy went to, but I did hear comments that they were powerful experiences. We ended that day with a supper for local and visiting Unitarian Universalist clergy hosted by First Universalist in Minneapolis, the congregation out of which this one sprang. And then, still at First Universalist, a vigil service led by some of the First Universalist staff and also by my spouse. The service, again, included lots of singing. I think singing is a way that we metabolize emotion, and so it was important that we have a lot of music that evening. And I noticed as we were singing that much of the music, including hymns that I, as a nearly lifelong UU, have sung literally countless times before, landed differently with me that evening and with many others as our voices blended. Colleagues, both local and those who had traveled from other parts of the country to be with us. Many of us were in tears both of sorrow for what's happening in our city and tears of relief to be held in that kind of community and to be receiving the outpouring of love that came our way from those colleagues who are not local. The next day, Friday, was a day of action of various kinds. So Thursday was kind of filling our tanks and giving us good information to get us ready. And then Friday, we went literally out into the streets. Visiting clergy across faith traditions were offered experiences like a visit to a local immigrant congregation, patrolling for ICE activity in some of the areas where it has been heaviest. One of the teams that went out, I believe they went out in teams of 3 or more. One of the teams actually witnessed and interfered with an attempted abduction and stopped a woman from being taken. They did not physically interfere, but they filmed and spoke to the agents and drew a crowd. Another group made pilgrimages to both George Floyd Square and the memorial site for Renee Good, keeping in mind that this was just the day before Alex Preddy was killed, so there was not yet a third memorial to visit. We local clergy also had options, one of which was an action of moral witness and civil disobedience at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, bearing witness to both the abduction of about 24 airport employees from their jobs. And I want to make really clear in this story, all of those employees were taken from their jobs that are beyond the security checkpoint in the airport, which means they have passed security checks, background checks, which means they have legal status of some kind, and yet they were seized by ICE in the week or two prior to this action. So that was one of the reasons we showed up. Those of us who were in the front line of the protest block of about 100 clergy had giant poster boards, larger than the yard signs that we have that say love your neighbor, poster boards with either pictures or silhouettes and first names and the word abducted across the top, representing those employees. And we were joined in this action and actually led in this action by the union that represents those workers. We were also protesting the flights that depart from our airport, taking ICE detainees from here to detention centers elsewhere, including Texas, and of course, our continued call for ICE to leave the Twin Cities. At the point that we went and did that protest, which was January, 23rd, I think, there had been, in the calendar year, which meant in less than a month, there had been 2,000 detainees flown out of our airport in shackles at that point. So averaging about 100 a day. I don't know if that number is still the same now, but I would suspect it may be. On that Friday, those of us risking arrest had made that choice several days ahead of time and received training from those union organizers and others so that we would be as prepared as possible for what might happen. We gathered at a local church Friday morning for our final preparations, and then we boarded buses for the airport. Even before going to the airport that day, collective resilience was present in the form of other colleagues. When all those clergy came in from elsewhere, we worked to find them free housing rather than expecting them to pay for hotel rooms to be here with us. Some of you volunteered home hospitality, and my wife and I had 2 visiting clergy as guests in our home. The first 2 people to ask us for guest space, which filled our guest space, happened to both be important mentors from earlier stages of my ministry, one when I was in seminary and one in my first years of ministry. And receiving hugs and words of support from them before leaving the house that morning felt both like a blessing, a benediction, and also a little bit like putting on spiritual armor. I was strengthened by their blessings. Once we were at the airport, our large group of faith leaders continued to be a source of strength and courage for each other. Speaking for myself as someone who had never risked arrest before, I was braver because I was with other clergy, some of whom were already my friends and some of whom are now. Somebody told us that day, once you're arrested with somebody, they're your friend for life. It's an experience that is not like any other. During part of the action at the airport, including immediately before we began to be arrested, I literally had my right arm linked through the left arm of my friend and colleague, Reverend Lisa Friedman, who serves as the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Minnetonka. It was a little tricky linking arms while holding the giant signs, and also we were bundled in like 5 layers, because if you remember, the wind chill that day was 40 below. So we were like penguins in our snow gear, but we managed to link arms, and that gave me strength. She had also never been arrested, and I actually, at one point, I was on the very end of a line, so we were in a block to start with, and then they had us spread out in a thin line facing the curb at the departures area, where there were barricades and then a much larger crowd of protesters who were in the designated free speech zone, so they were not at risk of arrest. So we were facing them. I was at the far to my left end of the line, and I realized I felt pretty vulnerable being on the end of the line. I mean, it wasn't gonna make me get more or less arrested, but I think there was a part of me that was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and if they arrest me first, I won't know what to do, help. But I thought to myself, okay, my friend Lisa has also not done this, so I'm not gonna ask her to trade places with me. Like, that would be rude. I did think if one of my colleagues who's been arrested before had been next to me, I might have asked him to move to the outside. But being there linked, giving each other strength through those linked arms was an important part of our resilience that day and as our legal process continues to unfold. We also gave each other strength and courage by singing. You're going to hear that as a thread about this, right? The power of music. We sang both during the moral witness action and actually on the buses where we were held after our arrest. During the moral witness, one of the songs that we sang, which we'd actually practiced ahead of time, was a variation on the chorus of Pete Seeger's song, Everybody's Got a Right to Live. Do any of you know that song? I had not learned it before this, and the variation we sang, again, was just the chorus from his original song, and it's one of those zipper songs where you change one word each time you sing it. So the first one was Seeger's title, Everybody's Got a Right to Live, and then we changed it to a right to love, a right to learn, a right to dream, etc. We did, I don't know how many, but a lot of verses that way. And the part of his chorus that became our chorus in between those verses was the line, and before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. And singing that with each other, we knew that we were risking arrest, and in fact that we were very likely to be arrested. Arrest was not the point of our activity that day. We weren't there to get arrested. We were there to proclaim moral witness, to name what was happening, to draw attention to what was happening, and if that came at the cost of arrest, we were willing to take that risk. Singing that particular song together while knowing what was coming helped ground us in why we were risking arrest in the first place. Because we believe so strongly in the campaign against immoral and illegal actions by federal agents against our neighbors in the Twin Cities and beyond. As the police came down the line of clergy to begin the arrests, the crowd shifted from protest chants, like you hear at any protest or vigil in the Twin Cities these days. They changed from that to calling out in support of us. I didn't know until later, and it's going to make me cry to tell the story, sorry about that. I didn't know until later that at the far end of the line from me, when the police first gathered, they brought buses in, and then they were at that end of the line, which is where we'd been told in advance. There was coordination between the union organizers and the airport police. This happens fairly often, that there's a protest at the airport, so they've been through this before. We'd been told the arrests would start down at that far end, and when the police showed up down there, we'd gone from standing to kneeling in prayer, this long line of about 100 clergy. And when the police showed up, the crowd started chanting, "Let them pray." And although during my own arrest, I was so focused on the directions I was being given by the arresting officer that I could not quite take in the words of support that were being called out, I later watched video recordings and I heard that the crowd was shouting things like, "We love you," and "You're our heroes." After we were issued our citations and released, which took multiple hours because it takes a lot of time to process 100 clergy, volunteer drivers arrived to take us back to the church where we had gathered that morning before going to the airport and where we had left all of our valuables, including our phones. We were told not to have those on us at the point we were arrested. Those volunteers not only showed up to drive us, but they showed up with their cars heated warmer than they would normally drive in them, not knowing if we had been outside in that 40 below wind chill for hours. We were lucky that we were held on buses, but they could have kept us outside that whole time. They also had heated blankets, water, and snacks for us. Throughout that day, we clergy were held in care by a team that included the union organizers who trained us, a legal support team whose phone number we wrote on our bodies so that we would have that number if we got our one phone call. We were not taken to jail, so we did not need the phone call, except, minor humorous aside here, when they were done processing us, they said, "Okay, you're free to go. Is anybody coming for you?" Because again, it was 40 below wind chill, and so they were kind enough not to want to just dump us outside, as is happening to people at the Whipple building. And somebody said, "Well, we have a phone number on our arms," and the guy said, "Okay, well, you can make your call, you can call the person." We weren't restricted to one call because we were not being held at jail, but you can call. And sort of as one voice, we all said, "We don't have our phones," because we had been told to only bring our government-issued photo ID and 3 days worth of any prescription medications in the prescription bottle, so that if we were held in jail, we would have access to our medications. So that's all we brought with it. Well, hand warmers, Kleenex, a few other things like that, but no phones, no smartwatches, nothing that can be tracked. And the police officer sort of looked for a minute like, oh, what do I do about this? And finally he said, well, I guess we can use my phone. So he called the man named Liam, who was at the other end of that phone number. And I could not hear the conversation, but I like to imagine that it sounded something like, Liam, this is Officer so-and-so, and I have 100 clergy here who have your phone number written on their arms. Would you please come get them? I think they had a very unusual workday that day, dealing with 100 clergy. So we were supported by the legal team, by the organizers, by the crowd talking to us while we were there. And we were supported by the people who sent us, whether you literally sent us or not, but the congregations we serve, the other kinds of workplaces that some of the clergy work in who are chaplains or community ministers. Many of you have now signed a Side with Love t-shirt that I wore on Thursday. I will confess I was not actually wearing it when I got arrested because I was advised by more experienced Minnesotan outdoors people that wearing cotton in temperatures that cold is actually unsafe because it can freeze. So I did not wear the t-shirt that Thursday. I did have on this Side with Love stole. But even wearing it on Thursday at that training felt like carrying you with me, and that too was part of my resilience. Much like having my arm through Lisa's arm, it made me stronger and braver than I would have been on my own. And the t-shirt was in my bag at the church while I was at the airport with my other important possessions. And so it was with me on that day, even though not on my body. In the weeks since that clergy convening, I have continued to see many examples of community resilience at the neighborhood level, not just in the neighborhoods where Renee and Alex were killed, although certainly there, but all over. In my own neighborhood in North Minneapolis, I got connected to some folks I hadn't met before at caucus night, and now I'm in a hyper-local signal chat for our precinct/neighborhood, where we support each other in various ways. We don't only use that signal chat to look out for our more vulnerable neighbors, but we also use it to remind us all to do things like hydrate, take our meds, put out our trash and recycling on time for it to be picked up by the city. And all of these acts, from the small to the large, are part of collective resilience, part of how we get through this together. As I said back at the beginning of the sermon, even if ICE were immediately gone from the Twin Cities, there would be healing needed and a process of recovery and repair. The thread that runs through both our resistance to occupation and our recovery from it is resilience, both individual and collective. One of the chants at protests over the last few months has been a call and response. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. I think it's equally true to say who keeps us strong or brave or whole, and the answer is the same. We do. We do that by caring for each other and for our neighbors, whether we know them or not, by being the kind of loving community that we all want and deserve to live in. We do that by showing up for each other in all kinds of ways, whether delivering food or giving rides to work, or calling to check in, or providing rent assistance or other forms of mutual aid. We do it by showing up here, where in times like these, congregations serve as a place where we nourish our own spirits, fill up our reservoir, so to speak, so that we can go out in the world and do the work that we are called to do there. And we do it by making sure that no one is left alone, no one is left behind. And in that spirit, a few of us are going to teach you one of the songs that I learned on that first day of the clergy convening. We're going to teach it in a sort of call and response fashion where we will sing a line pointing to ourselves, and then you will sing the line. We will sing it with you, but you will sing the line. We'll teach you each line that way, and once we've taught the whole thing, then we'll sing it through. Did we decide on 2 or 3? 2. We will sing it through 2 times together without the repeat. So we'll lead you. Follow along. No one
together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all.
Okay, now we'll put it together.
No one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. No one is getting left behind this time. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. No one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. No one is getting left behind this time. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all. We'll get there together or never get there at all.
Now imagine how that felt with probably 1,000 clergy in Westminster Presbyterian. It was incredible. It was goosebump raising. Let's extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of command. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And as we prepare to leave our Sunday service and move into the week ahead, may we continue to be a source of resilience for each other. May we offer strength when we have it to give, and may we accept it from others when we are the ones in need. May we remember that we are stronger, more courageous, and more whole together than we can possibly be alone. And may we know that we are never truly alone. Amen, and blessed be.